Good evening and welcome to the Town of Goffstown Board of Selectmen's meeting for August 8th, 2016. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First thing would be the acceptance and correction of minutes from 7:25:16, public and non-public. I need a motion.
Motion to accept the 7/25/16 public and non-public minutes with any corrections if needed.
Second, Peter.
So we have a motion to approve and seconded by Alan. Any discussion? Any corrections? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Unanimous. Second thing is he going to be here? No? David? For
No,
the-
no.
Okay.
No.
Just a quick announcement here. In January 18th, 2016, the Board of Selectmen approved the plan for an Eagle Scout project by Hunter Aldenberg of Troop 99. Dave Pierce and the Friends of Goffstown Rail Trail oversaw it, and the location was the granite abutment for the former covered railroad bridge over the Spicasqua River, which is the western terminus of the Goffstown Rail Trail. As I said, this project was authorized as a donation to the town by the Board of Selectmen on January 18th, 2016. David Pierce, Friends of Goffstown Rail Trail, provided community oversight and guidance for the project. Material specifications were reviewed and approved by the Director of the DPW. The New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources found the project acceptable. The metal and wood fencing was purchased from American Fencing, Inc. in Hooksett. The metal fencing was installed by professional mason John Wright from Penardville, who donated his services. Excuse me. Trail gravel was donated by Mount Williams Incorporated from Ware. The sections of wood fencing and the gravel trail surface were installed by the Scouts. On July 25th, Mr. Pierce reported to Troop 99 Eagle Scout Review Board that the Scout Aldenberg completed the project to his satisfaction. Scout Aldenberg spent a total of $1,890 for materials, which was covered by donations to his project. Considering the worth of the donated materials and services, the project might have cost about $3,500 had it been accomplished by the town contract. So congratulations to Hunter Aldenberg.
Did a good job.
Great. Okay, Derek, why don't you go into Town Administrator's report, please?
Okay. You have in your meeting packet your selectmen meeting schedule. Tomorrow night, the Sewer Commission is meeting here. Just note that that meeting is at 7:30, a little bit later than usual. On Wednesday, the 10th, Conservation has a meeting at 7 p.m.
I'm there as well.
And Thursday at 7 p.m., the Planning Board has a meeting.
I will attend.
Okay, and then next week, Parks and Rec has a meeting at 6:30 on Wednesday, the 17th, at the Parks and Rec Center.
I will be there.
The next item is a consensus folder. You have an employee status report. You have step increases for call firefighter 1, a call firefighter 2, call firefighter EMT, a call firefighter 1 EMT, and 2 call firefighter 2 EMTs. And you also have a discharge for an inactive call member and an AEMT. You have a discharge of lien for map 37, lot 17A. This is resubmitted from a previous meeting with corrected information. And then acceptance of drainage easement on map 34, lot 49, which is at 135 Elm Street.
I need a motion, but there's some discussion on this. Can I get a motion?
Motion to accept the consensus folder.
Seconded? Second. I have a question, Derek. You may or may not know. The employees, on the step increases for the call firefighter, we're discussing now a reassignment of wages for.
For non-union full-time employees, that would not affect these individuals.
Okay. So they are not covered by that.
By that matrix, correct.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Abstaining? Seeing none. 3-1, 3 4-1, I'm sorry, 4-1-0.
The next item, you have assessor recommendations and tents to cut. They're both recommended for map 23, lot 11, and map 23, lot 13.
Motion to approve the assessor's recommendation.
And seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none? And I'll read the correspondence. 5D, right?
Yes.
This is from Dick Lutters, Chair, Piscataqua River Local Advisory Committee. It's addressed to the Goffstown Board of Selectmen. Reference to Mill Street property, map 34-124-1. Dear Goffstown Select Board, it is the understanding of Piscataqua River Local Advisory Committee that the town of Goffstown has decided not to convey the property located on Mill Street, map 34-124-1, to a third party. Public access to Piscataqua River is one of the priorities of the PRLAC. The PRLAC would like to thank the Goffstown Select Board and the town of Goffstown for reconsidering the sale of this property. If at a later date, the town would like to explore potential public uses for this parcel and/or would like assistance in seeking potential funding for sources to support a public use of this parcel, the PRLAC would be more than happy to assist. And this is sincerely Dick Lutters, Chair. Next. And this would be correspondence in reference to Target Shed?
Yes,
Shed?
we received an email on Wednesday after some discussion with Eric Fletcher. He's requested the town, the Taggart Shed behind Station 18 was set to be raised as part of the station upgrades. He has asked the Board of Selectmen allow him to relocate it to his property on 9 Church Street. And in your packet, you have the town purchasing policy regarding disposal of surplus property. And behind that, you also have a little map showing you where the Taggart Shed is and where Eric Fletcher's property is. The only other considerations are planning and zoning would require site plan for non-residential use. The building size would require a foundation, and there's a relocation agreement in the signature folder if the Board of Selectmen decides to move forward with this.
My question is timing versus tearing it down. If he has to go through the build a foundation, go through the permitting process, how long is that gonna take? And is that gonna be in your way?
I mean, he's not gonna tear it down, he's moving one piece right now across the street. If he has to tear it down, he always tear it down later.
But go ahead, Collis.
When does it need to be ready by, chief? Where is it in the construction sequencing?
The plan was to clear that lot for construction next week sometime. So we're looking at next week. Can we put it off a week? I would think that that'd be a possibility.
I don't think you can get approved that quick. Go ahead, Jeff.
Talking with Eric, his intentions were to raise it up, build a trailer under it, move it to his property, at which time he would seek the approval of planning board and the building department afterwards before he put the actual foundation under it.
And then if you can't meet all the zoning
He'll have to raise it then.
requirements, then we'd have to demolish it.
Yeah, then he would have to demolish it at that point.
Is it written that way?
Yes, the agreement is that he has to comply with all building and zoning requirements, yes.
Okay, there's been no, on that, there was no date on it, set date.
No, and that's where, talking with the chief, he said, 2 weeks from tonight, then we could do that. Eric was ready to move it this Wednesday or Thursday if approved and weather allowed.
It says in his letter here, he's ready to move anytime, so I
I
mean.
understand that, but
No, I get where you're coming from, Peter.
if he's gonna be sitting on it, or, I mean, what I'm afraid of is he gets it over there and unloads it off of his trailer.
Yep.
What do we accomplish then?
Well, it's on his chief's way.
David's got his hand up.
I'm going to oppose the concept of selling this building and having it moved. I find no structural value in the building. It's, portions of it are a hazard, the way it's been constructed, and I just as soon see it raised and quickly disposed of.
Collis?
I mean, structural value is a subjective matter. I mean, if we got somebody who's interested in it, and he's willing to do it, and he's willing to comply with all of the zoning requirements, the setbacks, minimum requirements, he's willing to do it within specific time periods, so it doesn't sit there as an eyesore on a trailer. So it's done by date specific. You know, he's made reasonable argument that to him it has some special meaning, and to the fire department it has some special meaning. So why not? I see no reason why not to. I mean, to just tear it down for the sake of tearing it down seems spiteful to me.
Alan?
When really, when you think about it, if we're gonna tear it down, it's a liability to us to tear it down and get rid of it in the first place. If he's gonna willing to pick it up, move it across the street, it costs us nothing. Costs us zero. And in the long run of it all, if he can't do anything with it, he's gonna get rid of it then. So it's all a win for us.
Mark?
I just want to know, does he have contacts and all his things lined up for all the utilities, phone and all that? I mean, he says he can move it, but it usually takes a significant amount of time to get utilities. We got to move fire alarm cable, we got to move electricity, we got to move, there's a significant amount of cables there to be moved. So, I mean, time sensitive, yes, I agree, but before I think we say yes or no, I mean, I'd like to see or hear from Eric to say, yes, the public service is gonna be here, the fire alarm company is gonna be here, the phone company is gonna be here. I want everybody on the same page, same date, same time, so that we're not waiting for anybody or anything.
Collis?
But I assume that would be handled by the building inspector.
That's-
He's gonna have to, you know,
Yep.
abide by the process.
So I understand here the concept is Eric wants the building. Let's face it, his dad was fire chief, and there's a lot of historical value to the family and maybe some of the other folks in town that have participated in Taggart over the years. I think, personally, I think we need to extend him the opportunity to get the building within a reasonable time and doing it safely. That's, Alan?
Yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Rich Geddes is gonna move that building. He was very reputable, and I'm telling him, move that thing across the street, you wanna know it's been moved, he'll have it all.
We don't know who's gonna move it.
I'm pretty sure that's who it is, but, yeah, no, he's not gonna move, his building mover's gonna move it.
Yeah, and he won't get to see how to use it until he's got all the.
Right.
utilities
We all
installed,
know the
ready
bullets
for
for the guns, I mean, you know, it's,
So,
So the chief says 2 weeks. Do you have a date for us, chief, so we can kind of come up with
well, 2 weeks from tonight was what was said.
Yeah,
29th?
yeah.
Well, that'd be 3 weeks, but we could do the 22nd.
22nd.
Go on.
We're still finalizing the contract for the builder, so we've got, a week or two before that's settled out and the town administrator can sign off on it. So there is a little time to be had. Just another thought would be to give an opportunity to show how much it would cost us to raise the building. We estimated anywhere from $60 to $70 a ton for disposal. There's about 3 ton there, and we have about 4 or 5 hours of site work, material, machinery, and manpower. So just to give you an idea, about $25,000 to $3,000.
Hey, make a motion, Colin.
I'll make a motion that we move forward with the process and allow him to acquire it as long as he abides by all appropriate building codes and planning and zoning ordinances, and in a timely manner that works with the fire station improvement program.
second.
You want to put a date in there, Collis, or?
Well, he's gonna put the date in.
Well,
Yeah, I think we'll let
them work it out.
allow the town administrator to work out the details.
Yeah.
Second.
Motion's on the
Still.
floor, was seconded by Alan, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
I'm opposed.
3-2. 0. I missed public comment, but I don't see much here for public, so we'll move on.
The last item in the TA report this evening is authorization to request lot merger for map 38, lot 13, and map 34, lots 96 and 99. These are the fire station lots. You have a map and a deed in your packets. And also in the signature folder is the lot merger form and the development review application for the planning board. That is currently scheduled for this coming Thursday, the 11th.
I'll make a motion to authorize the chairman to sign the lot merger and development review application. This is exactly what we talked about at a prior meeting, and what we wanted to have done, so let's just move on with it and get it done.
I'll second it for you for discussion real quick.
Any discussion?
I just want to know, now, did we, along with this, did we get all our deeds all in place? These are all, we're all legit now, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at.
There was some questions on that at one
They're
time.
not gonna come back around and bite us in the butt later on.
Town administrator and myself, along with Scott Bartlett, were able to find all the deeds in play, and we were able to determine with good sense that what the current lot lines are. I've been in discussion with Mark Dahlberg, who's going to be doing the survey for this lot, and he should be completing it this week. I'm not sure when he'll have the actual results for you, but he'll be completing it.
So he'll complete the plan for the planning board,
Correct.
lot consolidation.
Yep, he said that he has about 90% of it complete already, because he already did the Main Street and the feeders off of that, so he just had to double check on a few things, and he'll have that complete.
Motion still, second still.
Any more discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none? I'll sign it.
That's all I had.
Okay, we'll go into Selectmen's discussion. Well, Chief, you're here. Why don't we just go right into yours? Gonna be starting here anyway, so. Chief is here tonight. As you see, a staffing report. We're all given a copy in your box of the full report, and then he's got a small presentation tonight. You're using the... Yeah, you is. Go ahead, Chief.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. About 2 weeks ago, I presented to the town administrator and the board of selectmen a self-assessment of our current operations and our staffing. And it was I realize it's quite a lengthy report, and I apologize for its length. And there's just an absolutely ton of data in there to mill through. And I realize it's a lot to digest in a short period of time. And the fact that, we have budget season approaching us fast and hard, I thought it'd be best to give an overview of this report to the board and offer any opportunities for question on the recommendations that did come about from the report. And also, if there's any guidance to help us proceed from here. Well, the reason we did an assessment is we have obviously increased demand for services, decreased available staffing, and an increased occurrence of non-response or delayed responses or substandard response. And this is nothing new for Goffstown. It seemed to be a systematic issue not only in New Hampshire, New England, but nationwide. And there's no easy solution. It seems like it's a local solution, but we're all kind of grasping for opportunities to maintain the level of services our community demands. The last item, when I said increased occurrence of non-response, delayed response, or substandard response, what that means is we have a call that comes in, and we just plain old don't have anybody available to respond, or because there's only a case where we have to get retoned on several occasions to get folks to respond. There's a delay, or there's a substandard response, meaning there's only perhaps one or two people that are available to respond to the call versus, say, 4, 5, or 6, depending on the type of call. So we're going to talk about a few things that what was examined in the study, in the report that was given to you. And I wanted to remind the board that we had a good group of folks in this report committee that we had, a good smattering of the deputy chiefs, myself, and full-time and call officers, and to give their own perspective on what's been happening in the recent years. In 2006, the town employed the local government center, the LGC, to perform a fire department study and assessment. And I'll go over the recommendations in a moment, but that's one of the items that we look at just to benchmark where we were. We also want to look at what are benchmarks and who do we look to say where we should be. We've actually got a ton of data now that we've got a good reporting system, and we're using dispatch that uses good time stamping. And we're also looking at a comparison to other like communities. Whether it be a salary study or other things that we look at for labor union contracts. There's typical communities that we look to in the southern New Hampshire area that are like Goffstown, but not exact, but it's good to compare. And then we'll look at options to improve our services. So here's the previous LGC study recommendations, and there was 6 main or core recommendations, and I won't go through them because you could read them, but in a sense, we're able to accomplish all but 3. We were able to establish and recruit and retain approximately 30 trained part-time call firefighters. We're able to utilize call members on the call force to fill in full-time vacancies. And then we're slowly changing from a only EMS nighttime coverage to a fire EMS trained nighttime coverage. And what that's done, and it's actually saved a couple of structure fires we've had. We had, say, a garage fire recently, and because we had fire-trained folks on the ambulance that are staffed at night, they were able to run out there real quick with the ambulance and douse the fire with some fire extinguishers. So what we didn't accomplish was that we developed a staffing plan to incrementally increase the full-time staff 24/7. And what we didn't do is develop a standard operating procedure requiring minimum safe staffing and fire apparatus. So what happens is we do have fire brass sometimes because of staffing we respond with only 1. You know, should we be responding with 4, 5, or 6? Absolutely, but sometimes the staffing won't allow us to do that. And then lastly, develop a long-term strategic plan for additional full-time firefighters to provide 9 to 12 full-time firefighters per shift, 4 per station, while incorporating trade and call firefighters to fill 3 vacancies per shift at 1 per station. Again, that was not implemented. So benchmarks. When we look at benchmarks in the fire service and EMS, we look at NFPA. NFPA is a consensus standard. We know that it's not law, but it's one of those things where NFPA gives us technical guidance on where we need to be. And also they're I guess the godfather of fire codes, and that's how the state enacts their fire codes rules. NIST is the National Institute of Standards and Technology. They're the ones that actually do the studies for us, and they're able to determine what's most efficient for fire service in putting out fires. ISO, the Insurance Services Organization, they're the ones that pretty much regulate and rate how much we pay for our insurance premiums for property. And we were just evaluated by the ISO when right now we're 4.4B. Give an example of the effect of a 4.4B. Say a homeowner in a hydrant district. I'm one of them here in Goffstown, and for a typical house, it could run anywhere. Your insurance could run anywhere from $300 to say $600 a year. In an area that has a poor ISO rating or 10, they could be paying anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 a year. I always look to just over the border to the folks that live in New Boston that have a distance away from their fire department, and they have a ISO 10 rating in that area, and they're basically paying triple the amount that they would say if they were in Goffstown. ICMA is International City and County. Those are your town administrators, town managers getting reference. They always set standards on what staffing is. Fire accreditation, it's typically like a police accreditation, and then OSHA. There's the ones that come down with the fines and so forth. People say, well, New Hampshire's not an OSHA state. Well, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, is the Department of Labor now fosters their rules and a lot of their regulation on OSHA standard, especially when it comes to public safety and job-related hazards. For like community comparison, we wanted to look at towns that had similar economic and geographic resemblance to Goffstown. They both had full and part-time call firefighters, and they also provide their own ambulance services. So we selected Bedford, Exeter, Hooksett, Hudson, Laconia, Londonderry, and Merrimack. And these communities are also looked at for other studies that we do. Our current fire department staffing that we have, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., 7 days a week, we offer staffing at both the Church Street Station and the Mass Road Station. We offer staffing of 3 at each location. The Terrell Hill Road Station, there is no on-duty staffing. That is staffed by our on-call folks, and when there's a call, they come running in and take a truck to the call and do their thing. But this gives you a comparison of 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., so we have 3 at Church Street, 3 at Mass Road. Now, after hours, at 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., we have only 2 at Church Street right now, none at Mass Road, again, none at Terrell Hill Road Station. And again, the main mission, I guess, for the Church Street staffing, the 2 there, is to get the ambulance out, respond with the ambulance. Whenever we have the cross-trained folks that are firefighter EMTs or firefighter paramedics, they do respond to fire calls, and it's already made a difference there, but sometimes they're just EMTs and paramedics, and they have no fire training, so we don't gain that kind of benefit, as you would say. Some of our call data, that we're looking back in the decades, just to show the relevance of the increasing population and then the call demands that go along with the population. And right now, we're on pace to respond to nearly 2,400 calls in 2016. And again, it's just as our population grows and the demographics change in our community, you'll see our demands grow. Last 5 years, obviously, the lion's share of our calls are rescue and EMS type calls. We do have a lot of service calls. Now, service calls, we say, well, what are they? Well, they're the fire alarm activations. We call the smells and bells, where we get called because they think there's a fire or hazard, and we get there and either we mitigate it pretty quick or there's no problem at all. And also, it just shows you that the day of week for the past 5 years, there's no one particular day that's crazy busy. Thursday seems to be our busiest, but not by much. And we seem to slow down a little bit on the weekends, but they're all pretty much consistent. So when you look to planning out your staffing, you sit there and go, well, you know, since it's Sunday's always a slow day, we'll staff down on Sundays. Well, it doesn't really we don't see that kind of impact. Incident activity, well, we run from three stations. We have the Station 17, which is Terrell Hill, 18 is Church Street, and 19 is Mass Road. And over the 5-year period, we show the breakdown. And Mass Road and Church Street, they're pretty much neck and neck, depending on the year. But this is a heat map that shows the town of Goffstown. And you see that we have a lot of activity in the Pernardville section, a lot of activity here in the village section, and then we're seeing growing activity on the Goffstown back roads section, Medville, the Y, and some of the areas heading out towards Moset and East Dumbarton Road. We're starting to see some increased activity out there in that neck of the woods. We're still seeing not much activity on the Back Mountain area, or Browns Corner or Roby Road. Seems pretty quiet out there, knock on wood. And when we look at response time, we figure, well, time does matter. And when we talk about, well, what does time really mean for EMS calls? And we all know that heart attacks, you have to get there quick to help heart attack victims. But now they're saying anybody that's got cardiac, maybe having a heart attack, but they haven't gotten cardiac arrest yet, time's a factor. Stroke victims now are a huge time factor for us. We rush people into the hospital as quick as possible. And now sepsis patients, the patients that have severe infections, they're saying time does affect mortality rates. As far as fire goes, this is a good example of how the progression of fire, and when we talk about ideal fire response, we want to get there in 5 minutes. Well, this is why. Because typically after somebody detects a fire, reports calls 911, dispatch processes the call, and then within 5 minutes, there's a high probability that what we call flashover occurs. And that's where everything in a room, where all the contents and everything in a room ignites and flashes at the same time and burns. And unfortunately, nobody ever survives a flashover. So our job is to try to get there before that occurs, to stop it before it actually flashes over. So that's one of the main items when you talk about trying to get to a incident sooner than later. In the areas where it's yellow, green, and light blue, where it's a dispatch, fire response to fire, and setup, that's the area where we can affect the most. We can do this. We know it's going to take so many minutes to get from point A to point B. We can't drive there any faster. We're doing our best. But if we can respond faster, get on the trucks faster, and mobilize faster, it makes a big difference. It really does. And this is our experience. Since we went to IMC for dispatch, we're able to now manage our response time or measure our response times much better because we measure it by the second now. In the past, we could only measure it by the minute. Okay, so for the past 2014 and 2015, we have 2 full years where we can measure exactly what our response times look like here in Goffstown. And so this graph is telling where it shows you when we're the busiest during the day. Obviously, our busy time is right after lunch, and then it starts scaling down towards the evening. And the quietest time is obviously between 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning, which is not untypical for most locations. But it shows that because of our staffing, remember our staffing is at the station from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. You'll notice that our response times are the best at that point. Whether for the blue line is for EMS calls, and the red line is for fire calls. And you'll see that even though we're busy, our response time is well within that 4 to 5 minute range. And what was alarming was that once that station staffing went away, our response time started creeping up, and to the point where at 5 o'clock we averaged over 10 and a half minutes for a fire response. And looking back to that fire growth model, that doesn't bode well. People say, well, why does the ambulance average response time climb after 6 o'clock when we have an ambulance staffed? Well, it's staffed from one location. It's not staffed from both Mast Road and staffed from the Church Street location. So they're covering, in a sense, the entire town, and they are. And sometimes the travel times take them a while. And also they may be returning from another call in responding from a Manchester hospital. This is an hour by hour breakdown of incidents for 5 years. It shows the activity when the fire incidents occur mostly. But you see, even after the slow times, there's always a constant fire call incident presence, even though there's a fluctuation in EMS calls. Here's our community comparison. Now, in the first top table, we talk about the cost per thousand, because realistically as well, you look at each community and say, well, Bedford's got a lot of commercial presence, especially on the South River Road area. Exeter, they've got maybe some more industrial. Hooksett, there's Hooksett. You got 3A, you got Route 3. They just seem to have a crazy commercial and industrial presence. So you have equalized valuation. Now, what total equalized valuation means is that's the amount that we protect dollar-wise, whether it's we get taxes from it or not. So why do we measure that? Because we protect everything. We just don't protect structures and structures that pay taxes or not. And so this is your equalized valuation. We looked at the fire budgets, the general fund budget, and then the full tax rate is the one that we're familiar with on our tax bills. And then you have cost per thousand based on your net appropriation. So if you went net to net, it's $3.74 for Goffstown, and it's midline compared to the other communities. But when we talk cost per thousand for equalized valuation, protecting everything in town, whether it be tax-based or not, you'll see that Goffstown's at $1.81 per thousand. And that's right in the range or in the lower median for the group. The cost per call, that's another way you could look at it. Cost per call over there on the left is looking at the different communities of your fire budget, our call volume, and our cost per call. And you see that we're right in the middle there also. Laconia is interesting. They're variable. You go, wow, they're really efficient. Well, they have an agreement with Lakes Region General Hospital where they actually pay for their EMS, and they actually pay for the ambulances and so on. So it kind of skews that cost per call number a little bit. But I want to throw that in there so you can see the difference. And then full-time staffing. Of all the communities, in the group, we're the only one that does not provide or staff firefighters 24/7. And there's the amount of firefighters that are on duty in each of those communities. We only offer 6 on duty for 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Well, I said, well, here's a solution, just get more call firefighters. And that's always been a struggle, not just for us, anybody in southern New Hampshire, in New Hampshire in general, New England, and nationally. And in fact, when I was talking to the, corresponding with the Merrimack chief on this, and he's throwing up his hands because he's doing the best he can. He's been tasked by his town manager to get as many call firefighters, and he's tried every avenue to try to get more in there, and unfortunately, he hasn't been able to add too many more to his roles. And a couple of reasons why. And the first part is training and certification demands. When I first started in the fire service 30 years ago, and Selectman LeMay can attest, if you want to be a firefighter, you know what, if you had a strong back and you had the will to do it, you could do it. You really didn't have to be certified, that came later. But now, the demand is, because we have to be an expert and respond to an all-hazards approach to our occupation, that we have to have certification and training. And this gives you an idea of how many hours you'd have to commit to just to say a firefighter 1 certification, a firefighter 2, if you want to take your EMT, up to your paramedic, if you want to drive apparatus, hazmat programs, and just incident management certifications. And then on top of that, the annual requirements to keep those certifications. So as you can see, it can be very demanding, and on top of that, we demand that our call firefighters are active. If we're gonna send them to school and train them and get them gear, we want them to respond to calls. So we're finding that there's a core potential pool of citizens that are willing to commit to the demands of the fire department, and that's that 20 to 30-year-old range area. And this shows, this pie graph is actually from our demographics here in Goffstown, and in our pool that we draw from is that it's only 20% of our actual total population here in Goffstown. So the pool is relatively shallow, and we've noticed that we've tried to get on as many people as we can, but the younger pool is what we're targeting, because those folks that want to become full-time firefighters, and they want to do this for a career. But beyond that, if we're lucky to get 2 or 3 a year that are willing to commit to this kind of demands, then we're lucky. But unfortunately, it still doesn't help us get out of this hole. So the recommendation of the report was to increase full-time and part-time staffing to allow for 24-hour staffing coverage, maintain a minimum on-duty staffing levels of 6 firefighter EMTs or paramedics whenever possible, apply for the SAFER grant to help fund some of the positions. Now, the SAFER grant is offered annually by FEMA and Department of Homeland Security, and what it does is it funds positions similar to what we'll be talking about here today or tonight, and pays for those positions entirely for two full years, including benefits and retirement. Explore ways to allocate funds from the current fire department and EMS budgets to help fund the portion of the cost for the additional staffing. And this is this is the recommendations that we realize that in order to make this work for 24/7, we would have to hire 4 additional full-time firefighter advanced EMTs or firefighter paramedics. And the group knew very, very quickly that, looking at the numbers, that this is likely to be a tough hurdle to overcome. Just because I'm a taxpayer in town, and realizing the impact of placing all these employees all at once in the burden to the taxpayers, we got that. So we wanted to phase in a staffing plan. So in July 2017, we recommended that we hire 4 full-time firefighter AMTs or firefighter paramedics, hire part-time firefighters to staff 1 position 24 hours a day. And in the fall of, that'll be for July of next year. So again, if we're looking at budgeting, we're budgeting for 6 months. I want to keep that up, stay that up front.
Can I just ask a question real quick
Go
right
ahead.
here? So in 2019, you'd be increasing your budget by $1.4 million in staffing.
In the worst-case scenario, because if you look at,
This scenario right here.
right, the numbers I'm giving you here is not touching any allocation from the EMS or fire budgets that could be adjusted.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but I'm saying you would be increasing your payroll by $1.4 million in 2019. Am I reading that right?
You would, if you didn't get any grants or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Quick question, Chief. Even if you get grants, once you get the grants, that's only good for the time of the grant. After that, you were still gonna pay for them.
You get a two.
We
you
own
get a-
them after that.
You get a 2-year reprieve
own
on
them.
paying, and then you own them. Or the Safer Grant initially, we got a Safer Grant back in 2008 for 2 firefighters, and at that time it was a 5-year performance period. And for 4 years, it was a weaning process off of federal funding, and then the 5th year, we owned them and we couldn't touch them. We couldn't get, release them or anything like that. They realized this, the Safer Grant folks said, well, it was a tough way to go, and it turned away a lot of departments. So they went with a 2-year fully funded program, and at the end of 2 years, if departments chose to keep them on, they could. And if they had to release them, they had the ability to release them. They weren't obligated beyond the 2 years. So in fall 2017, the Fire Safer Grant the application period becomes open, and it is a competitive grant process. And they typically award they design it so it awards sometime before February, March, to allow communities like us, where we may have to take it to the voters on town meeting day. In July of 2018, hire 4 additional full-time firefighter EMTs or firefighter paramedics. In the table down below, it gives you the worst-case scenario for the funding end of it. Now, a couple of caveats for the part-time personnel. It's for 6 months in 2017, and I just carried over a full year in 2018, just so you have, so the 1.4 you mentioned before, Peter, might be a little bit less, but it's going to be in that ballpark. Giving out these items, looking at these numbers, we dialed them down to the current pay for personnel, and also health benefits and retirement. And we know retirement is another big hurdle to overcome, but it's all there. By the end of 2018, the minimum desired staffing level will be at 6, 24 hours a day from the 2 fire stations we talked about earlier. And that gives you a picture of what we're looking at. And it's questions and discussion time. And I appreciate your time looking over the report and looking for guidance from the board on, I know we're coming into budget season, on whether we need to, I know there was discussion in the past on whether to either put it straight in the budget, in our department budget, or whether we should approach it differently and put it into as a warrant article. And at this point, I welcome any discussion or any guidance when it comes to the staffing.
I think we're premature on that because we haven't even started our budget process yet to see where we stand in our budgets. So I would think once we get into that area, then we would determine which way to go. I mean, what do you, normally which way we would?
I know we have to submit our department budgets for your consideration coming up, Derek, probably in a week or 2.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're coming down the wire on that, but,
So that's, I would think that's when we would take it.
Chief, were you endorsing another round of SAFER grant?
well, as far as looking at 2018, looking outward, absolutely, whatever works to get us staffing and perhaps, not having to pay for it for 2 years, I would take advantage as much as you can.
We did this with a program in the police department called Copsmore a few years ago.
Yep, the Cops
Quite a few
program.
years ago. Copsmore program. And it did end up in the end, you know, from the budget process biting you, because at the end of 4 years, you own that person. And it sneaks up on you.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right.
Well, we'll definitely, I mean, I don't think we're ready to make any decisions on that now. I think in the budget process is when we should be doing it. Does anybody have any questions for the chief? And I would suggest that you take a good look at this and maybe email him some questions, email the rest of us, and maybe we can all get answers. I did have one question, was on the ISO. That's insurance, right?
The Insurance Services Organization.
Right.
4.4
Yeah.
rating.
Where it's called a 4.4B, it's good. It's, like I say, it's in the good range.
For a
And
house.
you want to have the lowest rating as you can. One is the best, 10 is the worst.
But the only way to change an ISO rating would be to put hydrants in, bring public water in and stuff.
Looking at the last report we have, there's a couple areas that we can improve on. One of them is staffing and call processing, that'd be through dispatch. And I feel with some slight upgrades in reporting and hydrant testing with the water precincts and Manchester Water District, I think we'll be close to getting a 3. I think I was on Derry when we got Derry down to a 3, and it's achievable. I really do.
All right, any questions?
I'd certainly like to see some preliminary numbers on the impact to the taxpayers.
Yeah,
Well, I think the problem is, me personally, is we've got, once you take a look at the CIP numbers this year, and you look at this, and down the road, I know police department's got CIP projects in, Parks and Rec, chief's looking for some more fire station money in 3 years down the road, and you put 1.4 million plus another million here and there in the fire stations, and it's just,
Well, we could assign we could look at some preliminary numbers, what the impact to the taxpayers is going to be based on what's being asked. I think that's a pretty important piece of information.
anything else? See you then, thank you, chief.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, committee reports. I think with the next thing. 7 o'clock's when our traffic ordinances, but let's go into the committee report. Anybody have any reports? I have one from EDC. Who else had a meeting?
right.
Somebody have a,
I'll have some comments on the planning board.
go ahead, David.
Planning board did meet 28th of July. We continued a review of to convert a barn on map 20, lot 16. Convert that barn into a one-bay auto shop. And there was an initial attempt to deny the application due to zoning complications, but that was withdrawn, and we ultimately continued it to the next session on September 8th. The second item that evening was the parking lot for the Villa Augustina ball fields, and that issue was also continued to another future date after much discussion about what's going to be built.
Anything else?
No.
That's it? Okay, I attended the EDC meeting, and first thing up was the review of the master plan, Appendix B, Economic Development, comment and recommendations to the planning board, and there is a EDC reviewed sections of it and made some recommendations and anybody that'd like to see it, I could pass it around. We also had an EdStat report, planning board process handout checklist, which I think is I think it's what we've all asked for in a kind of a way. We changed it a little bit, and this is a site plan application process where somebody would come in and get this and be able to start a process of getting, we've changed it around a little bit. Derek, is the final draft done?
Not quite yet, but there were minor changes that needed to be
Can,
made. so-
can we get the Board of Selectmen copies of this so they can
Yes.
have know that
Yep.
what we're doing? And then there's also a application form with a actual process to follow for conceptual review. So we're trying to streamline things and get everybody to know what's going on when they walk in the door. That'd be pretty accurate, Eric?
Yes,
Derek?
yes.
So we also talked about, and I'll bring it up right now, the open house by DOT. It's at the Manchester Community College Auditorium, room 100, 1066 Front Street, Manchester, Wednesday, August 10th. So that's this Wednesday at 6 p.m. And this is to discuss the improvement of the I-293 exit 6 and 7. The whole plan is going to be laid out before you. There'll be an actual presentation. David, you said somebody's making a presentation here?
DOT and their contractual engineers would do a presentation on potential designs and their bringing into the environmental impacts. So it'll be several conceptual designs presented.
And there'll be an opportunity for questions and answers.
Yes.
I understand. Mark, you going with that also?
Yeah, I'm going to that,
And
just
I
to,
will be
David
attending.
and Carl said you're going to try, or?
I just realized it's the same night as the Conservation
Oh,
Commission
that's,
meeting.
okay, yeah. So we'll have two representatives there, and anybody else that wants to.
Peter, just a
Yep.
update of further, a little bit more information that from 6 to 7 will be in like an open house. We'll be able to comment, and at 7 o'clock, the formal meeting starts for that program.
Okay, new business? Carlos, you had some new business?
Yeah, the Goffstown Junior Baseball has a site plan application before the planning board for development of the parking lot down by the Villa ball fields. The plan calls for a driveway coming from the westerly end of the parking lot, and it would have to cross a portion of town-owned land to get to the actual parking lot location. So there needs to be some sort of an easement granted to Goffstown Junior Baseball to allow them to pass and repass over town-owned land. And they're in the middle of the planning process now. The planning board is meeting again, Derek, you know, fairly soon, I think.
This Thursday.
This Thursday to discuss it again. You know, and I think it's an important issue that we need to consider and provide some recommendations to the planning board so they can move forward. Goffstown Junior Baseball has been an institution in this town for a long, long time. I think the plan that the engineers brought forward is a good plan. I think it's going to improve safety, provide a lot more parking for all of the people using not only the baseball fields, but the rail trail as well. So I just want to make the board aware that there will need to be some action by this board in order for that site plan approval to occur.
Mark?
Just informational.
Call us, will the town be making the parking lots, or will the baseball people, they'll get? Okay.
They will be building it, they're paying for the design, the construction materials.
We have nothing to do with that, it's a private
Nothing,
concern.
yeah.
Yeah.
Alan?
I think it's probably, we should hopefully push it along and get these guys, get them set up, because if all they can do is cross one little corner of our land, that's a big deal. It's not-
Where is the crossing?
Well, the town parcel kind of cuts diagonally through there, so it would have to come across that piece of town-owned land to get to the other side.
Yeah, but we're not using it for anything, I mean, particular, are we? I mean, it's not part of the rail trail, I think it's just a piece of land that's connected to that
There's
dot.
a lot of
If I
parking.
Slow down, slow down.
If I could clarify.
Go ahead.
Welcome. As you drive out of town, there's a barren gravel area on the right, just before the rail crossing.
Right.
10 feet from that rail crossing, there's an entrance into the gravel area. And then closer to the village end of that gravel area, there's an exit from the gravel area. And the proposed 24-foot wide road is right in the middle of that exit.
exit
Yep,
from?
there's an area of gravel that exits onto Mass Road, and the 24-foot width driveway will be in the middle of that opening.
And that's an issue?
No, he asked,
Oh, okay.
he asked
Oh,
where,
okay.
he asked where would the driveway
I
be?
was just curious to what it was gonna affect down there, I don't see that that's gonna affect.
So I wanted to describe it.
Yeah, okay, fine,
Okay.
appreciate that.
It's not an issue.
No, I didn't know, that's what I was saying, it's not gonna be an issue as far as I can see.
So again, just for informational purposes, that, because this board's gonna have to take action at some point in order for them to finalize
Well,
their
anything
site
we can
plan.
do to help them with their parking situation and leave the parking situation down there would be greatly
If,
appreciated.
when, next time you drive by there, if you, rather than looking at the gravel area, if you look immediately to your left, you will see a mile marker for the rail trail that says 4.0. The driveway is directly across from that.
In fact, Crispin's House held a charity softball tournament there
That's right,
this
yeah.
past Saturday. They raised over $7,000 just in that one event, and the parking was everywhere. There were cars everywhere.
Yeah.
And RJM would not allow them to park, so there are several announcements saying if you're parked over in that parking lot, be aware you may be towed. And so everybody's scattering, they're moving cars, they're all over the streets, they're all over the place. So parking is a real big issue there.
And this is, are they gonna, how do I say, ensure that this is gonna alleviate some of that issue? Or
Yeah.
most of that issue?
Yeah. Yes.
The plan before the planning board says that their sport complex would require 120 spaces. There's 25 spaces already available, they say, and so 25 from 120 is 95. So the lot that they're proposing to build accommodates 95 vehicles.
Got compact cars, we got 105 in there.
Good. All right, and then next would be the action matrix, which is at 8C. I don't know if we've accomplished anything. at 8C. Is it there?
It's 9.
It's
The
right,
one-
it's right before 9.
Right before 9.
Nope,
Yeah, you're not.
it's right before 9, there's 9. So I have-
It's one page before 9.
Not me,
His book is different.
the book is different. I got 8 and 9.
You don't, you're missing your tabs, I think.
I'm missing it.
You can
I got
borrow
it.
mine.
Yeah. So, old business, that's remain the fire escape area. How are we doing over there, Mark, do you know?
I didn't make the last meeting. Go ahead.
The HCC has not met the last in July, and they do not plan to meet in August. We've made quite a bit of progress over there. The painter has got the first coat on. He'll also be repairing a portion of the cupola. And we've got some new copper flashing from Terrian Roofing that he'll be installing. So in terms of the painting and exterior portion that was funded through CIP, that project is almost complete. We did get approval for construction from DES, and I believe Sue has provided this board with some cost estimates, but I think when that actually happens, that decision still is yet to be made.
I don't think we've seen the actual cost.
Yes.
No, we haven't seen any cost.
Okay.
I haven't
Not
seen it.
yet.
Okay. But we did get the plan has been approved, so that's good for 4 years at this point. I'm working with HTC members on the final items for emergency lighting, and just 2 of the sprinkler heads need to be adjusted, but for the most part, fire escape is all set, and just invite anyone to take a look at the sides and rears of the building. It looks quite a bit different.
Okay, next up on the matrix is wage classification report, which we already have received. We need to take action on it, and that's in our packet for this evening. Penaville, of course, we're still talking about the 911 situation. Call us, that's still ongoing on your other deal, and the board wishes to discuss the future of Mill Street property, which we talked about, and
I have a suggestion on that last one on Mill Street property. I envision if we're going to, if that is ever going to be developed into some sort of public setting, that the parcel ought to be properly surveyed and the boundaries delineated. It's not urgent. If there's no money this year, perhaps Public Works can budget it for next year, but that would be, to me, the next logical step, is delineate where the town's property is.
Put that on the action matrix, would you, please?
Yes.
All right, it is 7 o'clock, and we have a public hearing scheduled. Thank you, David. And this was noticed in the Manchester Union Leader. In compliance with RSA 41:14-B, the Selectmen announced public hearings on 7/25/16 and 8/8/16 at 7 p.m. The Town Hall, 16 Main Street, Goffstown, New Hampshire, to accept public input on the proposed codification of the vehicle and traffic ordinances. This codification includes clarifying, amending, rescinding, and adopting new ordinances related to vehicles and traffic. A draft of this codification can be found online at www.goffstown.com or in the town clerk's office. A vote is scheduled on the ordinance on 8/22/16. Any person with a disability who needs reasonable accommodation, please call the Town Hall at 497-8990, extension 100, at least 72 hours in advance for arrangements. We have had our 7/25/16 meeting, and we will continue. We will now do our 8/8/16 meeting. And I'll declare the public hearing open. We have, did you want to speak, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Andrew Carteret. I am a resident of Goffstown and a member of the Piscataquag River Local Advisory Committee. And what I'd like to just, with regards to the parking, I just...
Thank you.
I'd just like to make comment that in the ordinances, Elm Street both, you're looking to, I believe, clarify that there's no parking between Upton Lane and Big Jane's Lane, that along that strip of land there is a parcel owned by Fish and Game that is public access. It is 19 acres. It was, it's my understanding is the intent is to allow access for anglers there. And the way the parcel is laid out, the access point to that parcel is to the northwest corner of it. And I have a copy of the town tax deed.
Just below the dam, right?
Just below the dam, right. And I guess what I'd like to ask is that the board at least consider ways to allow the public to access this parking, this spot. If you put in no parking all the way up to Big Jane Lane, what happens is that parcel has a very steep grade, like from Big Jane Lane east. And so parking along there and accessing the property is difficult. And then at the far end is the sharp corner on the Goffstown Back Road. I think they used to call it Dead Man's Curve.
Yeah.
So I personally would not want to park on a part of the road called Dead Man's Curve. So the access, and I actually have pictures here because there is currently no parking signs, and it leads you to believe that you can't access that parcel.
This is a little dirt road that drives down there.
That's right, that's right. And so you can see in this
Isn't that
picture,
gated, though?
there's a no parking sign before the access point, and if you look way in the back, there's a no parking sign after the access point already. And I guess my just request is that this is public land. It's there for people to use, to hunt, to fish, to trap, and it's almost like the access is being blocked. I don't know if there's a way to work with Fish and Game to change the access point, or if the signs could be modified to say, no parking to here, sometimes see like from here to the corner, or if spots can be designated, again, back to the waterfront, where you allow people who aren't from the town to park there. Anglers who are accessing this don't have boats. They're probably walking in with a fly rod. And right now, you can only have people park in the public spaces that have trailers. So I'm just asking that the board think about that, consider that. How will the public access this? And if you have any questions, that's my comment.
Derek, is that something that, even though we're going through this, and we can always change that in the future, right?
Yes.
I never knew that. That was
Yeah,
public. I never knew
I didn't
that.
know it.
Yeah,
I lived on Tibbetts Hill Road, 1953, so I mean,
it's actually worth walking down because it's.
I've
it's-
hunted and fished down there.
Yeah, as far as a fishing spot, you got the dam with all the cold water coming
Nice
out. You have a
spot.
big ravine, and it's wet, boulders, so it is a good spot for trout. If the Fish and Game ever decided to do something specific there, stock it for trophy trout, it would be fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions on that? Carlos? No?
No, we'll discuss it later,
Yeah.
actually, yeah.
Anybody else have any comments? Public, seeing none, we close, oh, sorry, Doug.
I believe there was an email.
Oh, I'm
that
sorry,
was-
that's right, I gotta read that email. There it is right here. I have an email, and this is from Jerry St. Jean and Anne Marie Campbell St. Jean, 99 Blackbrook Road. This was an email sent to Selectman Pierce. Subject is the three-way stops sign at the intersection of Blackbrook Road and Dunbarton Road in Goffstown. And it says, "Good afternoon, Dave. Realizing we missed the 25th meeting at the Town Hall regarding the three-way stop sign at the intersection of Blackbrook Road and East Dunbarton Road, Adam Jacobs informed us that there is another meeting to be held tomorrow evening," that's tonight, August 8th. "As we are in the Maine for the week, we thought best to send our thoughts to you. We are very supportive of seeing this become a reality. We have personally experienced firsthand and have also witnessed many close calls at this intersection, especially involving vehicles heading towards Manchester on East Dunbarton Road and vehicles turning left onto Blackbrook Road from northbound East Dunbarton Road. If the opportunity arises, please let our support be known for this project. Thank you for your help and suggestions. With our best regards, Jerry St. Jean and Anne Marie Campbell St. Jean, 99 Blackbrook Road." There. Now, can we close the public hearing? Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I didn't realize that was state land down there.
Belongs to fishing, well, all right.
When you say discussion, you want to the board to discuss the ordinance as it been proposed? Relative to the no parking both sides on Elm Street from Upton Lane to Big Jane's Lane, Big Jane's Lane is a loop road, so it's actually two intersection points with Big Jane's Lane and Elm Street. The proposal and the signs now only go to the westerly intersection. So in other words, the section between the two entrances to Big Jane's Lane is not posted against parking. There's also a very wide gravel shoulder there where people can easily park and get off the street, and I think gain access to both the Fish and Game land. But I think we need to clarify in the ordinance that the no parking both sides is from Upton Lane to the westerly entrance of Big Jane's Lane, because we need to be specific, because there are two of them. And it's always been posted there. It's been posted that way since 2001, when the whole waterfront was rebuilt. So I think we ought to clarify
Okay,
that it'd be to the westerly entrance to Big
so we
Jane's
need to
Lane.
fix that in that ordinance.
I would suggest that.
Yeah, just add westerly
Right.
entrance to intersection.
That would at least give them some parking there.
Right, yeah.
Anything else? David?
Maybe a question for Derek. There's a paragraph 201.32, which deals with traffic control signals. Our most recent traffic lights installed, the pedestrian hybrid beacons, those would not be appropriate for this because it's on state highway?
We had that discussion.
It is a stoplight, and the ordinance would have to be enforced if,
It does not appear that 114 at Dana's Park, which is in the state right-of-way, is on here.
It is or is not?
It is not here, and I don't see the intersection at St. Anselm's Drive. I can look at that and get a
Yeah,
more definitive answer for you.
For our next meeting.
For the both pedestrian hybrid beacons,
Okay.
if they should be listed in that paragraph called traffic control signals.
Well, we don't know, we'll have to find out if we have that
And-
authority.
And I don't see the signal on Henry Bridge Road on here either. But
Those are all state stuff.
Well, no, Henry Bridge is
Henry
local
Bridge
road.
would be
Yeah,
lo-
the light,
It's
both.
a simple crosswalk
no, we're talking.
on Henry Bridge.
You're talking about,
the light at Henry Bridge. And
No, I think I was referring to
Oh,
the crosswalk on
Oh,
Henry
okay.
Bridge. I don't see that in here, and I don't know, but I
Let's
can,
check on that,
Okay.
if we've considered the rail trail lights crossings in here. I don't think it is, but. Any more? Anybody else have anything else to bring up? Need a motion?
Motion to go into non-public session, RSA 91A3, 2B hiring, E legal claims pending, C adversely affects reputation, and A compensation.
Second.
Hey, did we close the public meeting? We did.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Alan?
Aye.
Yes.
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 That'll conclude our public portion of the August 8th meeting, and we'll be going into non-public now. Coming out and no longer discussing any necessary business. Do you want that? Do you want that?